Hey, it's Benji Cole. Very excited to showcase this next guest here on our network. So do me a favor, sit back, strap in, and get ready for a wonderful ride. And on the line with us today, we have Andre Serge Patenaude. And of course, right there, that beautiful woman is his wife, Dr. Joyce. Now we're going to be discussing Andre's amazing book, One Man's Search for the Divine. And Dr. Joyce has also written her own book. It's called Too Tired to Keep Running, Too Scared to Stop. Both titles are available for purchase through Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, pretty much any online book reseller. But also head on over to their personal site, joyceandandre.com, to gather everything that they have in store. It's a one-stop shop. You're going to want to head on over there. You're going to find out more information on each of them, more information on their fantastic novels, as well as find hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing pages. So one more time, that's joyceandandre.com. And I do quickly want to point out that they were both brought to our network by one of the best publishers in the business, Stellar Literary Publishing. So if you or anyone you know have a book that they'd like moved, people, I'm telling you, give yourself the best gift you could possibly give. Contact Stellar Literary and have their fantastic team move it for you. They're one of the best in the business to do it. They specialize in taking your literary creation to the next level. Head on over to their website and see what they can do for you today. And that's stellarliterary.com. And listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have both of them here with us on the line. And the moment you head on over to his Amazon page, his Barnes & Noble, joyceandandre.com, you start to do any research on his book, One Man's Search for the Divine, you're going to understand what we're discussing today. You understand the conversation that is getting ready to ensue. Now, it's a memoir, okay? And you all have heard me say this on a number of occasions before. Memoirs are such a treat, right? Because we're able to learn so much, not only about the individual, but also about some of the obstacles and the adversity that they had to face on their journey. And this is no exception, right? When we're talking about Andre's journey, he'll be one to tell you it really encompasses a large portion of his life, from a young man to an adult. And a lot of the things that he had to face, a lot of the adversity, a lot of the obstacles that he had to overcome. And people, you know, I mean, once you get to a certain point in life, you understand that you get past one obstacle and there's another one not too far after. But once you overcome those obstacles, once you are challenged and you surpass it, the experience equates to wisdom. And you become a better individual because of it. Now, you may not like it in the moment. I know I don't. A lot of the challenges that I face, I hate it, right? And when I'm going through it, I want anything but to work my way through it. But we understand that as adults, those obstacles create perseverance. Those obstacles create the people we become. And for better or worse, we're able to grow from it, okay? And this is going to be such a treat. This is going to be such a delight to have Andre here on the line to discuss his book. And of course, Dr. Joyce, we're going to talk about her book as well. But we're going to start off with Andre's, and it is an absolute treat because I'm telling you, you may not be able to relate to every single thing that he says, but you're going to be able to take a lot of the underlying messages, and you can take that to the bank. This is a motivational memoir, and one you're absolutely going to need to add to your shelf. And at the end of the day, let's bring them both here with us. Andre, Dr. Joyce, thank you very much for being guests with us today on People of Distinction. How are you all doing today?
It's so good to be with you. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Doing really well.
Thank you very much. Listen, the pleasure is all ours. I appreciate the kind words, and we're really looking forward to this. When the opportunity approached us and we were able to have you each here on the network, we knew, given the past number of years, man, with a lot of the divide that we have going on here within this country and across the world, we understand there's enough adversity to go around. And Andre, we truly believe the words you've put on the page are going to help so many people. So we knew we had to have you as guests here on the network with us. And without further ado, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to let you talk here because I know my listening audience is just biting at the bit. They're waiting to get to it. So let's jump right in. One Man's Search for the Divine. Talk to us about your book. Talk to us about your background, and let's jump right in.
Well, this is a book that I had an inner impulse to write for a long time. And I finally started writing it maybe 20 years ago. And I knew that because of my own transformation, I knew that it was possible to inspire other people to go through their own transformation from being someone who was completely programmed by this world to realizing who they are from an inner world rather than from an outer world.
You know, Andre, those are some big words, man, because we can all relate to that. I think growing up, you know, when you're transitioning, you're going through, I call them chapters in life, right? And you're going through your teenage years to young adult, but then young adults to your 30s and 40s and even beyond. And you're trying to figure out your place, right? You're trying to figure out who you are and your purpose in life. That's big, man. That is fantastic that you were able to discover it. Talk to us, because I know you said that your inspiration was to help others. What were you seeing on your own journey that made you compelled to put this book together and put it out for the public?
Well, as I said in my book, when I was young, I went through some major traumas, starting with my first day in school, and including when my parents moved to the United States. I was left behind. Actually, we were French Canadians, and I was left behind with my grandmother in Quebec, and she had two younger sons in their early 20s, and I was sexually molested almost on a nightly basis. And because of that, I went into what we call a complete disassociation.
Yeah.
I was totally disassociated from you might say, my soul, and I became, you might say, in survival mode, and I didn't care about my own feelings. I didn't care about other people's feelings. You might say a little sociopathic. And by the time I was in my early 30s, and I had been married for 10 years, I had a daughter, I realized that I had no direction and had no clue about what to do with my life. That was one part of my life. The other part of my life was a search, and I searched through books that people would refer to me. I studied to be a minister. And all the books on theology that I was reading were pointing to what we might call a ground of being, one's ground of being, and that resonated for me. Mm-hmm. And so that search went on parallel to the other part of me that was totally out of control.
Wow, you know, Andre, first and foremost, my sincerest apologies for the circumstances that you had to deal with. And I know a sorry does not do nearly enough, but, you know, it's what I have to offer at the moment. So let me start there. Listen, I didn't want to go here so quickly, but after that answer, how could I go anywhere else? My follow-up question to that, I want to be able to talk about advice to our listening audience. Now, you were talking specifically about your circumstance and your experience being sexually abused. It's almost an unfair question to ask because when it comes to abuse, it is as unique as the individual. So by no means is it a one size fit all, and I understand that. And I do want to try to take an opportunity, and hopefully you can entertain me and my listening audience and answer this next question. But when it comes to abuse, whether from a child's perspective or an adult, for someone that has experienced abuse, what would you say would be some helpful words on helping them get past such dark times in their life?
Well, I'm a trauma therapist, and so I have a lot of clients who come in with all kinds of different childhood traumas and even adult traumas.
Right.
And the thing that I let them know is, look, yes, you went through all this, and it was really difficult, and you survived. You made it this far. You made it this far in spite of all of this difficulty that you went through. Mm-hmm. And I want you to take a look at that part of yourself that went this far in spite of all of the adversities that you went through, of all the pain, all the suffering you went through. You made it this far.
Absolutely. You know, and I think that's a great point that you bring up, because I think that oftentimes gets overlooked. We get so focused on the negative. We get so focused on the circumstances of what had happened that we neglect to see we're survivors, right? We've gotten through the trauma. It did not define us. It did not break us. Now, again, people, I understand. Believe me, I understand. I am oversimplifying. Okay, it is not as easy in the moment, but I think that is wonderful, wonderful advice. Andre, thank you very much. People, you know, Amazon and Barnes & Noble are where you have to go. JoyceandAndre.com. Head on over there. Pick up your copies today. One Man's Search for the Divine is the title you have to pick up. It is absolutely amazing, and we have barely scratched the surface. We've just begun. And already I can see how beneficial this book can be. Switching gears here slightly, Andre, with this next question, but with regards to writing this book, what would you say was a highlight? Or maybe highlight wouldn't be the right word in this instance, given some of the subject matter, but what would you say was something maybe that surprised you about this journey that you weren't anticipating before you began?
Well, I knew that my life was absurd, and everything that I was reading was showing me that the answers were inside of me. But I had no clue on how to look inside. And one day, someone handed me the book, Be Here Now by Ram Dass. And this was everything that I needed to know. And there he says, you don't find the guru, he finds you when you're ready. And that really opened me up to, that kind of lifted me. And I went, okay, good. So there are answers, and I'm going to open up to that possibility.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Thank you very much for sharing. People, sometimes we have I've always been a very firm believer of everything happens for a reason, right? And call it divine intervention. I've never been a religious person. I've always been very spiritual, but I've never been a religious person, and we're not going to go down that route right now. We can go down a rabbit hole with regards to that and my reasons behind it. But I've always been very spiritual in that regard, and I do believe in a higher power, and I firmly believe that there is nothing placed in our way that we can't overcome. And I believe that everything happens for a reason. And you talk about that pivotal moment. You talk about this book that someone offered you that really was the precipice that set you down on this new chapter, right? And this new person that you became because of it. And how beautiful is that to hear? That is absolutely fantastic. I love it. People, listen, I can sit here and I can talk to Andre for hours. A, there's that much information. B, I'm that much engulfed in the conversation that we are having. But here's the thing. I'm not going to do that for a couple of reasons. One, because you got to go and purchase the book yourself. Okay, that's one as well. But also, we have Dr. Joyce sitting right there next to him. And I'm very eager to introduce her as well, because She by no means is just someone that's there to offer support to her husband. That she is, but she's also an artist herself. Those paintings you see behind them are paintings that she made, and how beautiful are they? But not only is she a painter, not only is she an artist with regard to that, but she's also an author. As I mentioned to you at the beginning of the interview, she's written her own book. It's called Too Tired to Keep Running, Too Scared to Stop. Now, the anchor for today's interview was, of course, all about one man's search for the divine. But I do want to give her an opportunity and go into her narrative briefly, because I'm telling you, each of these books are fantastic in their own right, and they have so much to offer. So Dr. Joyce, again, welcome to the show, and I'd love to take this opportunity and talk to you a little bit more about your book. Please tell us a little bit more about Too Tired to Keep Running, Too Scared to Stop.
Well, thank you very much. And too tired to keep running, too scared to stop is where a lot of people come to in their life, and they don't know what to do next. And I was a psychologist, and I saw clients that were going through conflict and problems, and I recognized something which was the source of my book. I recognized that everybody seemed to be totally confused about their own life and didn't know where to go or what to do. And when they came to me, I realized finally about everybody that we get confused and distorted in our thoughts by our mother and father. We don't want to believe that, but it's the truth. They don't know how to guide us, lead us, open up to our life. Because when we're born, we know nothing at all. Somebody has to teach us what's going on in the world, in our life. And it's our mother and father, but most of them don't know how, don't have a clue. So we end up too tired to keep running, too scared to stop, and we don't know who we are and where to begin. So when I saw the same problem in every client that came to me for 20 years, I realized I had to tell the world and write a book about it. And this is what my book is about. It's about what we learn from our childhood, which doesn't guide us or help us to evolve. And I had also, like Andre, a deep faith in the Lord and believed in the Father. And the message I had was, lean not on your own understanding, but trust in the Lord and He will direct your path. And as I trusted that, the information came and I wrote my book. And this is the source of my book.
You know,
many clients that I saw and the difficulty they're having with their life. And hopefully it made some change in the world.
Yeah.
In mothers and fathers throughout the world.
You know, Dr. Joyce, thank you very much for that. And wow, okay, let me just start there. Wow, okay. As I've gotten older myself, and I too am getting ready to embark upon fatherhood. My significant other and I, we are getting ready to have our first child. And as elated as we are, right, as excited as we are, we do understand that this burden, for lack of a better term, because by no means, of course, are we saying that our child, our soon-to-be child, is a burden. But the burden of parenthood is steadily starting to creep in. And it's forced me to do a lot of reflection over my own upbringing and my parents. And how one thing that I've come to is parents don't have all the answers, right? And I remember growing up and always assuming that my mother or my father would have all the answers, right? I think as a child, you look at your parents and you're like, they are superheroes, right? And listen, my parents are amazing. I absolutely love them. But as I've gotten older and I've become more of an adult myself, and especially within this past year, as we are going through this pregnancy, it's forcing me to realize that parents do not have all the answers. And by all means, you're figuring it out as you go. And it's kind of a trial by error thing. And I think that what you've just stated, Dr. Joyce, is huge to understand that a lot of the things that when you're talking about the confusion that people feel sometimes come from the parents, or a lot of times come from the parents. Mm-hmm. I think that brings up such an important question. What would you say to our listening audience and people that find themselves at that crossroad where, listen, you know, sometimes parents just do wrong, right? We know that. But sometimes they mean absolutely the best and they are trying their hardest. But as I stated, they're kind of just figuring it out as they go. What would be some words of wisdom that you can offer to our listening audience for someone that finds themselves at that pivotal moment and doesn't really know how to assess the future, how to advance, but also how to reflect on some of the things that they had overcome?
And much of what we work through is some of our parents' issues. Fortunately for me, I was born to a man who was a college graduate. He had a PhD and he was the head of the school system in Minnesota. And this gave me the courage I needed to develop my brain and to know without a doubt that the gifts of life were given to me and I did not have to just fall into nothingness. He was a great influence on me as a father, and I had a wonderful mother, and that made such a difference in my childhood. And this is what all of us need. We need, from the time we're born, we need guidance to develop an understanding of self.
And I would say, if I can
Absolutely, please.
I would say, as parents, what we need to do is to mirror our children rather than to project onto our children. And if we mirror our children, they already have within them what is necessary to develop as a human being. What the children need is guidance in that direction. But mirroring our children rather than projecting onto our children is what's important.
That's so correct.
Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because when my babies were born and I held them, what I was holding was something divine. Mm-hmm. And I not from my intellect, but because of because of the feeling that I had, holding them was divine. I was holding the divine within me, in my arms, and that's what I need to mirror is their divinity, you know, and so that they keep recognizing who they are. Mm-hmm. But if I'm projecting, eventually they forget who they are, and then they try to become what I want them to be, and then they abandon themselves.
That's where they're lost.
Right.
That's where we get lost.
That's where we get lost.
Wow, you know, so
people who come to me and for not only trauma, but I also work with abandonment. And then they realize, I help them realize that really the first abandonment was them abandoning themselves so they could survive. Mm-hmm. So anything external that abandons them recreates that initial pain, that initial trauma, if you want to call it trauma, of self-abandonment.
Listen, I love this. There's so much about this. People, listen, for the sake of this interview, because I know myself, and I'm going to keep trying to talk to them. I'm going to keep on going down this route and asking more questions and trying to develop this because this is profound. There is so much here to be gained. I'm going to say it for you once again because you all know what you have to do. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, JoyceandAndre.com. You can't go anywhere else. Head on over there. Pick up your copies today. We started off with One Man's Search for the Divine. We closed out with Too Tired to Keep Running, Too Scared to Stop. You need to pick up these books. There's so much wisdom on those pages. This is a fantastic resource to add to your shelf, and it's an even better gift to add to someone else's. Head on over there today, pick up your copies. You can thank me later, okay? This is something you need to do. Head on over there. Andre, Dr. Joyce, this has been a true pleasure, such an honor. Thank you once again for being guests on People of Distinction.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
very
much.